Algebra 1 students, another video for section 7.5, 7.6, factoring using Xbox. The last video had example 2, and then the your turn is after example 2, so I recommend that you pause the video and try the your turn, and then come back to the video, and that should be the answer that you got. 2x plus 1 times x plus 4. All right, let's try a couple more. I'm going to try to do 2 in this video. So if it's going too fast for you, then I suggest you slow the video down or replay it. So example 3, we have a negative happening here. So A is 12, B is 5, and C is negative 2. So that, which looks like a subtraction, you're going to put that with your C. That's going to be a negative. So B goes at the bottom of the X. A times C, which would be 12 times negative 2, goes at the top, negative 24. So now you have to think to yourself, if I am multiplying a negative, if I'm multiplying two numbers and my answer is a negative, so we're going to put two numbers here that multiply to give you 24. If the answer is negative 24, then one of these factors will have to be negative. And then think about when you add one positive and one negative number, what you're really doing is subtracting. So you want to find factors of 24 that multiply to give you 24. That's what a factor is. But subtract to give you 5. So you should do your factors of 24, and one set of factors of 24 are 8 and 3. Now I need to make one of them negative. So in order that when I add them, I get a positive 5, I would have to make the 3 negative. So 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. 8 plus negative 3 is positive 5. Then put your problem in the box. Instead of the 5a, we decided to write negative 3a and 8a, and then the negative 2 goes at the end. And then if I look down this column, I see a 12 and a 4, and I think, oh, I know that. I'm sorry, I see a 12 and an 8, and I know that a common factor, the greatest common factor of 12 and 8 is 4. I know if I have two A's in this column, I'm going to have an A here. If I have two A's in this row, I'm going to have an A here. So A to the first times A to the first gets me my A to the second. And 4 times what will get me 12? That needs to be a 3. And again, if you check across this row, a common factor of 12 and 3 is 3. One thing I want to point out right here, when you're finding these two values, keep them positive. We have a negative 3 here, but we don't want to put the negative here. We're going to put the negative over here with the second term in this binomial. So the first two terms in these binomials, your two answers here, keep those positive. Okay, so now if I look down this column, 2 and 3 don't really have any factors in common except 1. And I know I have to put a number here, so when I multiply it by 3a, I get negative 3a. So that would be a negative 1. 3a times negative 1 is negative 3a. Nice. Now let's look across here. I notice I have a 2 and an 8. 2 and 8. The common factor of 2 and 8 would be 2. So I'm thinking I'm going to need a 2 here. And then if I check this, 4a times 2 is 8a. So I'm looking pretty good so far. I just need to do one last check. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. So my two factors are 4a minus 1 right here and 3a plus 2. Okay, so these two examples, example 3 and example 4, we have that negative showing up. All right, so in example 4, your A is 3, your B is negative 13. Again, that subtraction is the negative on the 13. And your C is 12. I know I'm going fast. If you need to, pause the video to fill in the notes or even rewind. Okay, bottom of the X is my B, which is negative 13. Top of the X is my 12 times 3, which is 36. Okay, 36 has, a fair amount of factors. 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9. I think that is all of them. And again, you need to be able to list these factors so that you can find two factors that multiply to give you 36 and add to give you negative 13. The way I'm going to get a negative when I add and a positive when I multiply is both of these factors will be negative here. A negative plus a negative will get me a bigger negative. When I multiply two negatives, I'll get a positive. So I'm still looking for two factors that add to 13. And I notice right here, 9 plus 4 is 13. So I'm going to put my 9 and my 4 there. Negative 4 times negative 9 is positive 36. Negative 4 plus negative 9 is negative 13. All right. So now, original problem goes in the box. 3n squared. Negative 13n, I decided to split up into negative 4n and negative 9n, which, if I add them, I get 13, yep, and then plus 12 on the end. All right, two n's in this column, which means I'm going to have an n up here. 3 and 9 have a common factor of 3. Two n's in this row, which means I'm going to have an n out there. So n to the first times n to the first gets me my n squared. 3 times 1n gets me 3n squared. So 3n times 1n gets me 3n squared. Okay, over here I need a number that when I multiply it by 1, I get negative 4. Well, it seems like it needs to be negative 4. And again, in this column, this box has an n, this does not. So I know I'm not going to have an n up here. Also in this column, notice 4 and 12. The greatest common factor of 4 and 12 is 4, because 4 divides into 12. Okay, negative 4 times 1n gets me negative 4n. Okay, I'm doing good. Now, 3n times something, and I need to get a negative 9n. Well, I know 3 times 3 is 9. So right now, if I multiply 3 times 3, I get a positive 9. So I need to make this 3 negative. And if you notice, when you have a negative here, you're going to have a negative here. And when you have a negative inside this box, this factor or this term up here will also be negative. Also notice across this row, the greatest common factor of 9 and 12 is 3. Okay, let's do the final check where I multiply the negative 4 times the negative 3, and I do get positive 12. Okay, so my first factor is 3n minus 4. And my second factor is 1n minus 3. So that's a couple examples for when you have either a negative at the bottom of your x or a negative at the top of your x. So I think now you should pause the video and do the your turn. And after you've paused, this would be your two factors, and you can also pause the video and check your work if you had a mistake. And that will be the end of this video.